On Tuesday, it'll be over soon, Abby, because we vote for a president, but we do not actually elect a president. That is the Electoral College's job. In a new documentary called Electoral Dysfunction, Rocca asked some young people to try and explain that.
We're going to have a little election here, and I'm going to ask you to choose between two candidates, colored pencils and markers. Who is voting for colored pencils? Okay. 10 votes for colored pencils. Who is voting for markers? 14 for markers. Markers have won the popular vote. But now it was time to warp these young minds by introducing them to the Electoral College. Table 1's elector, how do you cast your vote?
Markers.
Table 3's elector.
Colored pencils.
In the end, the whole election came down to one state. Elector, how do you cast your vote?
Colored pencils.
What's that?
We're still cheating. Everybody should think it's unfair because it's not just about the elector's vote, it's about everybody's vote.
Oh, Aubrey, you are a rabble-rouser. He is.
The documentary is now airing on PBS stations around the country. Rocca is with us now. Good morning.
Good morning. Yeah, third graders have an uncorrupted sense of fairness.
Yeah. How did we get to this?
The Electoral College, which Thomas Jefferson called an ink blot on the Constitution, was an unenthusiastic compromise among the framers. They toyed with the idea of a popular vote. They rejected that. They thought about having Congress select the president. That would have given Congress too much power. So they settled on an indirect election, which was common at the time. And slavery also played a role. It was a way of giving South credit for their slaves, electoral credit for their slaves. So while they treated slaves as 0/5 of a person, each slave counted as 3/5 of a person in the infamous 3/5 clause in the Constitution in order to bring balance between North and South.
Well, let's go back to your kids for a second in the piece. That little boy said, "No fair, it's cheating." And the latest polls show that 62% of the voters, Mo, do not like the Electoral College system, yet it still exists today.
Yeah, both Democrats and Republicans don't like it. And in my opinion, if Mitt Romney were to win the popular vote and Barack Obama were to win the Electoral College vote, I don't think the Electoral College would be disbanded. I think it would blow up in a fiery ball, because I think both parties would have been lost out with the Electoral College in the course of 12 years.
So what would they then do?
Well, there would have to either be a constitutional amendment. There's also a plan to do an end run around the Constitution, something called the National Popular Vote Plan. And I don't want to take too long to explain it, but it's a way for states to, it's an interstate compact. And a bunch of states have agreed to it, saying that they'll cast their electoral votes for the winner of the national popular vote, regardless of how their state votes, if enough states agree to this, to equal the winning number of 270. I know that's confusing. If you have a DVR, rewind
Yes,
it.
rewind
I promise you it makes sense.
And play again. You know, but the bottom line for people is, how can you win the popular vote and still not be president of the United States?
We are the only democracy on earth that uses this system. And defenders of it say, well, what about the small states? It protects the small states. The only states it protects are a handful of swing states.
Right.
These guys are running for president of Ohio now, and it doesn't make any sense.
So if, in fact, they're not electoral, this is another electoral issue. So if, in fact, nobody gets 270 electoral votes, both have, say, 269.
It gets thrown to Congress.
And the House of Representatives decides on the president.
That's
and
correct.
The Senate decides on the vice president.
That's correct.
So we'd end up with a president from the Republican Party and a vice president from the Democratic Party.
I smell sitcom. That would be a ridiculous situation. But I believe that if there were a popular vote right now, you would have Mitt Romney campaigning in Orange County, California. You'd have Barack Obama going to Austin, Texas. At least it would be more, they'd be going to more parts of the country.
Nicely worked. Nicely done. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mo.